Welcome to the Healing and CPTSD Show, a space dedicated to supporting complex trauma survivors through community, resources, and advocacy. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Danny. I'm a complex trauma survivor, EFT practitioner, and the creator of the Healing and CPTSD community. I created this space as a place of support, safety, and hope for those of us living with complex trauma. My mission is to shatter the unnecessary shame that surrounds trauma and to create a safe space for people to discover they are not alone. If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss our show. In today's episode, you'll be getting a personal one-on-one with me as I'll be telling you a bit more about my story, who I am, how this community came to be, along with some basics to get this series started. If you're here, it's likely because you have been diagnosed with CPTSD, have experienced complex trauma, or are simply looking for some support in developing a better relationship with healing trauma. If this sounds like you, you're in the right place. The first thing I want to tell you is that no matter where you are in your healing journey, you are not alone. There is nothing wrong with you, and your trauma was and is not your fault. Next, it's important for you to understand I am not a mental health professional, nor do I have all the answers. I'm just a complex trauma survivor like you, trying to figure it out. Which means when I say I've been there, I really have. In fact, it took me over 25 years to even begin to start looking at the trauma I had stored deep within me, locked away out of reach from my conscious mind. I won't sugarcoat it, my journey wasn't the easiest. But the reality is, if it was, I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now, and this community would have never been created. But that's skipping to the end of the story. Let me take you back to the beginning. I was born into a trauma lifestyle with a dysfunctional family of alcoholism, domestic violence, mental illness, and intergenerational trauma. As with most children who grew up in these types of environments, I thought my childhood was normal. These were just the cards I was dealt. There wasn't a way out, so out of necessity, I adapted. I buried my emotions so I could survive. I learned to shift my personality so I could become what the person in front of me wanted me to be. I found this was the best way to improve my odds of avoiding abuse or any sort of negative reaction. I did what I could to forget and ignore my pain and just blend in. I was unknowingly a professional fawner, not understanding that my entire personality was wrapped around a trauma response. So I learned to live in survival mode. The bottom line was it was actually the only mode I ever knew. And if you can relate to that, I promise you are not alone. I spent most of my teens and early 20s numbing myself with alcohol and drugs. I tried to pretend I was normal and sought love and acceptance in all the wrong places. When abuse lives in the roots of your family, it doesn't just disappear or stop as you get older or become an adult. There was no roadmap for growing up through trauma, which meant no roadmap for the healing journey either. Now, I won't go into my full trauma to healing story right now with you because I have an entire blog called Complex Danny, where I utilize my love of writing to get extremely honest about my personal experience with complex trauma and healing from it. I created this blog to capture everything I am, a space where I could speak from the heart and be raw and unfiltered, where I can finally just be myself for once as the beautiful, messy work in progress that I am. So if you're interested in my story, including my experiences with trauma and CPTSD or the steps along my healing path, head over to Complex Danny. It is my hope as I embrace my layers and complexities. I encourage you to do the same. After all, we are all complex, and that isn't a bad thing. As for the healing side of things, the main question I get asked is, but how do you heal? And I just don't think it's that simple, nor could I give a simple answer to such a question. Healing isn't one size fits all, and it isn't an end destination. It's a direction you choose, a lifestyle you cultivate. It's building an honest relationship with yourself, even the dark parts you don't want to look at. It is daily effort and constant awareness. Healing doesn't mean the trauma goes away or disappears, but instead that we've learned how to navigate in, around, and through the pain. I don't think there is one specific thing to heal you. I think it's a lot of things that specifically work for you. Because what works for you might not work for another, and vice versa, and that is okay. That is completely normal. The number one thing I want you to take from this video is healing isn't one size fits all, which is why I think it's important as a complex trauma survivor to share what has or hasn't worked for me, so it may help you decide what may or may not work for you. And if something doesn't work for you, that doesn't mean you are fundamentally broken or you will never heal. It just means that didn't work for you right now, but something else can. For example, EMDR, a therapy that has helped so many with trauma, including my own sister, was actually very, very damaging for me. On the other hand, what did work for me through the years was therapy, writing, energy healing, plant medicine, among others. Specifically, it was EFT, or emotional freedom techniques, and tapping, which are often overlooked energy healing techniques that help me move through and heal my emotions and start to feel safe in my body. Since I began using EFT and tapping, my world has truly changed in all aspects. I won't say it was only EFT and tapping. That would be silly. Creating a ton of crystal clear boundaries and reshaping my environment, my relationships, and my entire life were essential to facilitating my healing. But EFT and tapping certainly was the linchpin to helping me find my way to feeling better and release the trauma stored in my body without reliving its pain over and over and over again. It allowed me the opportunity to shift my relationship with my body and my emotions. As a certified emotional freedom technique practitioner and breathwork teacher, a core part of my mission is to help as many people as possible gain the skills and confidence to move through their emotions with ease and resilience. You can learn more about what EFT and tapping are on my website, Tapping with Dani. I have created a free EFT tapping guide to get you started. If you find the freebie guide helpful, then I suggest checking out one of my courses or working one-on-one with me. If you feel that EFT or tapping isn't for you, that's okay, because it's about what does work for you right now. Just remember that as you change and heal on your journey, what will work for you will also change. So if it isn't for you right now, maybe try again at a later date. The freebie guide will always be available. Now, outside of what I've already mentioned, I found that one of the best things we can do is educate ourselves about how trauma impacts us, along with strengthening our understanding of our bodies and our nervous system. Just this knowledge alone can help you look at your trauma and the relationship you have with your body differently, which is why I created the Understanding Your Nervous System ebook for our community. My hope for you in reading this ebook is that you gain the same sense of empowerment or embodied insight as I did. I want this to serve you on your own journey to better understand your body signals and to befriend your nervous system so you can better navigate your emotional landscape. Now let's go back to my story and discuss when I got diagnosed with CPTSD. It was March 2020, right as the pandemic was hitting, that I asked my therapist for a diagnosis. I had already been seeing her for over 4 years, but she veered away from labeling or diagnosing and instead just wanted to help, which I actually liked at the time. I was 32 and she told me I had complex post-traumatic stress disorder, or CPTSD. There wasn't any real discussion about it with her, and at first I wasn't even really fazed by it. I got off our call and did some research of it online, read the symptoms, and was like, well, that makes sense. And then put that information in a cabinet in the back of my mind and didn't think about it for a few months because we all had enough to deal with in March 2020. But then I dove into researching everything I could about the experiences and symptoms of CPTSD. I felt this enormous weight lift off my shoulders. The diagnosis of CPTSD allowed me to name my suffering. Everything I read felt like a message spoken directly to my soul. For the first time, I realized that there wasn't anything wrong with me. The symptoms I was experiencing were all part of my trauma and my trauma responses, which were still trying to protect me from the pain of my childhood. I finally felt seen. I almost even felt hopeful. Now, maybe you felt the same way when you were diagnosed, or maybe you felt the complete opposite. However you felt was completely valid and normal. No one's experience with complex trauma or healing from it is exactly the same, and that's not a bad thing. While receiving my diagnosis was life-changing, finding resources and support was in no way easy, since the DSM, which is the official classification book for mental disorders, didn't and still doesn't today recognize CPTSD as a disorder. Understanding that I was in the dark for so long because it's not recognized made me feel a bigger need to bring awareness. This isn't something you should only learn about after years or even decades of suffering from it like I did. So I started an Instagram account to have a space that could help me make sense of the chaos. And I plan to eventually one day, when I was ready, share my experiences and help bring awareness to CPTSD so other survivors could find support and not feel so alone. I had no idea that so many of you would relate, understand, and feel seen. I had no idea it would happen so quickly and continue to grow far beyond anything I could ever imagine. And that's how the Healing and CPTSD community was born. A safe space for complex trauma survivors to discover they are not alone. The crazy thing is, while I created this community to support others, I found that the love, vulnerability, and support offered in return by so many amazing people also recovering from CPTSD has helped me heal and grow my own confidence as well. So to those of you who are here from Healing and CPTSD, thank you. I hope you know how much you've inspired me and how much your support truly means to me. It is my goal that this show serves as a safe place of support, recognition, validation, and hope. If there's one thing I hope you find here, it's that you are not alone and there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. Together in this series, we will hear stories from other survivors alongside advice and tools from trauma experts as we explore healing and CPTSD. Drop a comment in this video of who you would like to be on our show, and make sure to subscribe to our channel so you know when the next episode comes out. If you haven't yet, I encourage you to check out our website at healingandcptsd.com. We have free resources, book recommendations, and so much more. If you love what we are doing here, please consider buying us a cup of coffee, which goes back into sustaining this very community, or head over to our shop and buy some community gear. Donations and purchases made by you are essential to maintaining and growing Healing and CPTSD, so thank you in advance for considering supporting our community. Thank you so much for being here, and remember, you are not alone. Until next time. Thank you for watching the Healing and CPTSD Show, a space dedicated to supporting complex trauma survivors through community, resources, and advocacy.